Welcome to Game Theorem, where we have serious discussions about absurd entertainment.
Oh yes, I would. I'm human, remember? We drive SUVs and we dump raw sewage into pretty lakes, and we will burn this planet to the ground if it means just one more cheeseburger. Mackenzie Malakoff, The Claim of the Succubus. Now, before we get into this episode, I did want to point out that you and I, Kira, we have a Kickstarter ongoing, right?
Yes.
For this Nuka-Cola project from the Fallout franchise that we want to do, a video and an accompanying podcast.
To make all the flavors of Nuka-Cola.
We'll only be able to do it if people donate money to be able to afford the thing to exist. So please check out our Nuka-Cola announcement podcast. Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into the episode.
Wait, I'm Kira.
Oh, yeah, I'm Kyle. Whoops. Okay.
We're talking about Lost Girl. Warning, this episode will contain mature themes and representations of promiscuity, as well as spoilers.
So why don't you tell us what Lost Girl is, Kira?
Lost Girl is a show about a succubus who's bisexual, and she learns that she's a succubus, and she has adventures and stuff.
It's a Canadian-produced show where this woman finds out that she's a succubus and finds out that all the myths of the different creatures throughout the world are all true. Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting premise. Yeah,
it really is. Especially, it's nice to have an actual bisexual character for once.
Well, that's what actually drew us into watching it in the first place. Like, oh, this show looks like it might have some really good representation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she might be a succubus, but hey, you can embrace your attractiveness, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get into it later, but the show kind of falls flat in several respects.
Yeah.
Like, she always wears heels.
Okay.
Sorry, okay.
Yeah, you can get into that later.
Still, it's a pretty good show.
Mm-hmm, it's decent.
And we wanted to talk about the combined origins of these different mythologies. So bear with us, the succubus won't come until later. Mm-hmm. But why don't we go back and we trace this backstory, Kira? All right. Okay, but before we do, what was your favorite thing about the show?
Kenzie.
Yeah, she was the one we quoted at the beginning. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get to it. More than hundreds of thousands of years BCE, some beings were in the process of evolving higher intelligence. These beings would eventually be categorized in taxonomy under the Animalia kingdom, Chordata phylum, Mammalia class, Primatus order, and Hominidae family.
That sounds like a bunch of gibberish.
It's Latin.
Ah, no wonder it sounds like gibberish.
Hey.
Eventually, beings would evolve in the Homo genus and sapiens species that would begin to dominate the planet.
However, an evolutionary split occurred when some hominidae beings evolved the capacity to utilize reality-altering supernatural powers that seemed to be magic. In so doing, they were able to live incredibly long lives and reproduce less frequently.
These beings experienced radiant evolution, evolving into a multitude of different species as they adapted. These beings constituted the Fae genus, and many species of Fae preyed upon species of Homo.
However, some beings of the Hominidae family acquired extraordinary powers in their evolution, even extra-dimensional powers, and these beings constituted another genus. Species within this genus often preyed upon Fae, thus earning them the nickname of Fae-eaters.
Once Homo sapiens dominated the planet, they bred out and killed off all other species of Homo until they alone were left. Homo sapiens became the only species of humans, but their numbers were enough to feed any predatory species of Fae.
Fae congregated themselves in families and communities based on their blood ties and relative powers.
Circa 900 BCE, by this time through special breeding, a group of families had evolved into spiritual beings in a new genus, and they were known simply as the Ancients.
The Ancients were each born with a unique set of abilities, while still retaining the capacity to learn more abilities in their lives. However, the Ancients could only interact with Fae or humans by possessing human bodies. Fae bodies rejected the Ancients.
The Ancients possessed some humans in Greece, and they became revered as gods by the humans. Zeus ruled alongside his wife, Hera, and they accumulated power through the adoration of the humans.
Zeus had many children, such as Iris. However, he wasn't always loyal to Hera, and he once had a child with a human woman. The child became known as Heracles.
One of the ancients, Nyx, remained in her spiritual form, refusing to possess a human. Eros and Psyche eloped into obscurity. However, Zeus's brother Hades was more powerful and manipulative than the rest of the ancients. One of the ancients, Nyx, remained in her spiritual form, refusing to possess a human. Eros and Psyche eloped into obscurity. However, Zeus's brother Hades was more powerful and manipulative than the rest of the ancients.
An altercation between Hades and the rest of the ancients led them to seal each other away in stasis. The ancients sealed Hades and his wife Persephone away in an alternate realm that became known as Hale, while Hades sealed the rest of the combating ancients away in another realm that became known as Myth. Iris and Nyx had their spirits become entangled when they were sealed away.
Is there any other information than that just happened? Like they were
That's all we know, just an altercation.
Mm-hmm. All right, Heracles, is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah. You might know him as Hercules, but Heracles is the correct pronunciation.
Ah, okay. Contained the genetic material of the ancients, which led any of the Heracles human descendants to be physically stronger than ordinary humans. This subspecies became known as Heraclids.
Around this time, the Fey Eaters went into hiding, because some of them, such as the Garuda, wanted to feed off of the energy that emanated from carnage in secret.
A species of Fey evolved, known as Cherifey, possessing explosive magma powers, and they hid deep within active volcanoes.
Another species of Fey evolved known as Valkyries. They had the power to decide the fate of warriors in battle, and to carry the souls of fallen warriors to other realms. Valkyries were also able to live a number of lives, and were capable of turning young again after each death but the last.
Valkyries began to take these souls to Hale, but Hale was bleak. They renovated their own space away from the deep chambers of Hale, and called their portion of the realm Valhalla, which became the home of brave souls who died in battle. The leader of the Valkyries, Freya, was responsible for managing and allocating space for the deceased.
Hades was still imprisoned in his possessed human body, which was still imprisoned in deep chambers of Hale, known as Tartarus, but he was able to contact his neighbors in Valhalla and would often attempt to manipulate them.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Well, they were in the same elevator.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Eventually, most known modern species of Fae, most of whom had lifespans lasting centuries, had evolved and thrived in their communities and families across the planet. Their communities had grown in size and power, becoming large clans, small nations, fiefdoms, and kingdoms.
Through a series of accumulating alliances, the large clans began uniting into enormous coalitions until just two sides remained, split by their ideological differences.
The coalition of Dark Fae believed that humans existed purely to be consumed by Fae as they pleased, and otherwise humans could be allowed to live their lives until they were to be preyed upon.
The coalition of Light Fae believed that humans should only be consumed by Fae when necessary, and otherwise humans should be enslaved to live lives to serve when needed.
The four initial founding member clans of the Light Fae included Clan Bucharin, Clan Finn Arvin, Clan Zamora, and Clan Scafati, and they lived within the Roman Empire.
The Fae of Clan Scafati were more powerful than the other clans combined, which intimidated the other clans. So the other three clans secretly conspired with the nearby Cherifey.
Oh, so that's why the Cherifey were important.
Yes.
In 79 CE, in exchange for forever promising to feed the firstborn girl of each clan every 100 years to the Cherifey erupted from Mount Vesuvius and destroyed the city of Pompeii, and the clan Scafati along with it.
Clan Finn Arvin exiled one of their own, Fitzpatrick McCorrigan. He was a very rare Fae called a Blood Sage, possessing the power to write history with his blood.
He used his power to eventually create his own kingdom that he ruled, where he became known as the Blood King.
Circa 500 CE, because of their differing ideologies, as well as stealthy instigation on the part of the Garuda, war between the light and dark coalitions defined the next few centuries, particularly in Europe, which would be known by the humans as the Dark Ages.
The only kingdom to remain neutral in the Great War was the one controlled by the Blood King. The Blood King's wife was Queen Isabeau, who was a succubus, possessing the power to feed off of sexual energy. They had a daughter named Aoife, who was also a succubus with some blood sage eccentricities.
Isabeau met with the leader of the Dark Fae, Horvus, in hopes of negotiating peace. However, the Blood King's trusted advisor made a power play and forged the Blood King's authorization to send assassins to kill all of the Dark Fae at the meeting, as well as Isabeau and bystanders.
Both the light and the dark were outraged at what they believed was the Blood King's deception and brutality. Both sides were united in demanding the Blood King's execution.
In response, the Blood King used his blood to write that a peace occurred between the light and the dark, and his power ensured that came to pass. The Blood King told himself that he did this to end the war, as per Isabeau's wishes, despite the fact that his execution may have united the two sides anyway.
The Blood King negotiated a truce between the light and the dark as the neutral third party. He was instrumental in writing the blood laws, which both the light and dark agreed to abide.
The laws include such things as defining the two sides as the light and the dark, respecting the authorities of each side, explaining the rules of sanctuary, absolute avoidance of conflict between the sides, eliminating lasting human awareness of Fae, and allowing all Fae to choose their alignment upon entering adulthood, regardless of their heritage. The Blood King would enforce these laws.
Some Fae, however, did not agree with their leaders and did not accept the peace. One of the Blood King's generals, Raynor, who was a Fae with powers of an intelligent tactician, led a rebellion with the goal of deposing the Blood King himself for falsely orchestrating the peace.
The Blood King was so angered by Raynor's betrayal that the Blood King once more used his blood to write history. He wrote that Raynor's army would betray him, and so they did. The Blood King witnessed Raynor's own army slaying him.
A Valkyrie on her last life named Tamsin attempted to take Raynor's soul to Valhalla, but the Blood King demanded that stop. Tamsin was desperate to complete her final soul delivery and defied the Blood King, so the Blood King made her an offer to extend her life in exchange for his soul.
The Blood King used his blood to write that Tamsin miraculously replenished all of her extra lives. He then also wrote that Raynor's soul was trapped in a realm known as Purgatory, with no memory of his life.
Furthermore, Raynor was erased from all of history, every book, every account, and every memory. In time, the apparent gap in history would be noticed by Fae, who couldn't explain some particular accomplishments in history due to the person accomplishing them being erased from it. Fae began to refer to the mythical entity as the Wanderer.
With those rebellions erased from history, other rebellions took their place, this time led by Aoife. She blamed the dark for her mother's death and sought vengeance. She assembled followers from the light and assassinated a clan leader of the dark. However, her army was defeated when the leaders of the light condemned her actions and she was captured.
The Blood King realized that his power had unforeseen consequences, and that it was his own fault that his daughter had been corrupted. He vowed to never use his powers ever again, and to keep the peace, he reluctantly handed Aoife to the Dark, who wanted to punish her for murdering their leader.
Hades concocted a plan to escape Tartarus. His plan would take a very long time, but he was patient. He contacted Freya and made her an offer, which she accepted. When the Dark executed Aoife, Freya delivered her soul to Hades in Tartarus. Hades tried to romance Aoife, but when she rejected him, he confined her and tortured her in Tartarus, much to his wife Persephone's dismay.
When the Blood King learned of Aoife's execution, he regretted giving her to the Dark. Rebellions kept occurring, making peace tenuous. The Light and the Dark approached the Blood King to negotiate an offer from the rebels with the Blood King.
The Light and Dark explained that the rebels felt the Blood King held too much power over the Light and Dark, and that was too much power for an individual to have. They explained that rebellions would not cease as long as he held power.
An agreement was made for the Blood King to abdicate his throne in favor of a council made up of 6 of the most noble Fae. They would give up their personality, desires, and souls to become a council of impartial mediators, called the Unaligned, that would uphold the blood laws absolutely with their hive mind.
In exchange, the Blood King would have the honor to be one of the nobles that would constitute the Unaligned. The chosen Fae used the enchanted origin seeds to undergo the transformation into the Unaligned, but upon seeing their transformation, the Blood King became afraid of losing his sense of self.
The Blood King escaped without using his origin seed. The incomplete Unaligned, with only 5 members, covered up the Blood King's escape, claiming that there were only supposed to be 5 members.
Faye came to believe that the Blood King had simply been lost to history after abdicating, and the Light and Dark continued to abide by the blood laws as enforced by the Unamens, which also were known for their unwavering ability to copy any power used in their vicinity.
Oh, really? That was their power?
They could, boomerang you.
The Blood King went into hiding and changed his alias to Trick in an effort to keep his true identity secret.
An era of peace for the Fae finally was in full effect, and the Fae ensured that the humans knew none of this history. Although some information did become known by humans, such tales were largely considered just myths.
Peace, however, had an incredibly ill effect on the Fae Eaters, who began to die off without carnage to sustain them. The Garuda in particular hated the Blood King for cutting them off so quickly from their sustenance, and the Garuda began to nearly go extinct.
One kingdom that had aligned with the light was called the Unaligned and existed on the British Isles, where they entered into a local war with an army of humans. The Unaligned were led by the King of Ilek, and most of their members were shifters who possessed the ability to transform into animal forms.
The King of Ilek desired a fairy with skullfolk eccentricities named Kiara, but she was already married to a wolf shifter named Stefan, so the king sent Stefan's unit on a suicide mission against their enemy, and that unit included 2 other wolf shifters named Dyson and Caden.
When Stefan was killed in battle, Dyson realized the king had betrayed them. Dyson chose to leave his fellow warriors, none of whom joined his desertion. The next day, the king proposed marriage to Kiara, who was compelled to accept.
A fae named Evany Floret Marquise was a leaning Sidid, possessing the power to feed off of the talent of those she inspires, as well as to melt others. She encountered Eris and dated him for a time, but she eventually found out about Psyche. Eris tried to run off with Psyche, but Evany captured him and imprisoned him within a magical crate. Her experience with Eris made her bitter, and she chose to join the dark.
Mesmers possessed the power to manipulate others' bodies against their will. They formed their own coalition of families, some light and some dark, but in so doing the Unamens felt that they were a threat to the status quo of the blood laws, which led to the butchering of all Mesmers that chose loyalty to each other over light or dark, which ended up being nearly all of them.
The Unamens dismembered the hands of each Mesmer to neutralize their powers without killing them, but this also sterilized their powers and extincted Mesmers. Only one Mesmer complied with the Unamens, and a young boy named Vex.
In 1419, Trick hitched a ride on a Song Dynasty junk ship that dropped him off in North America. He brought along all of his enchanted relics and books that he had in his possession.
Trick started a Fae colony in what would be eastern Canada when he created the Dalriata pub, marking it as neutral ground for both the light and the dark.
Dyson later came to North America as well and began dating Flora Blooms, who was a light Leshy, possessing the powers to commune with trees.
They stole some enchanted shoes from Hale called Hellscore from Prince Philippe III. However, the shoes resulted in her death, and Dyson was blamed for it. Trick offered him an opportunity to do some good in the world, and Dyson became a secret operative for Trick.
In the 1860s, the Unaligned adapted to the changing times as humans developed technology by creating an efficient weapons smuggling operation.
In the 1910s, the Unaligned expanded their weapons smuggling operation during World War I to influence the outcome of the war and make a profit.
In the 1970s, after torturing Aoife for centuries, Hades raped and finally managed to impregnate her. When Aoife needed to give birth, he called up to Valhalla to send Luann to Tartarus. Luann was a deceased fae who had followed Aoife into battle, and she acted as the midwife to assist Aoife birth her child.
The child was named Isabeau after her grandmother, and she was a succubus with blood sage eccentricities, but she also possessed a dark alter ego within her that she inherited from Hades.
Aoife couldn't stand to let Hades have the child, so she and Luann made their escape from Tartarus. Persephone assisted them and they escaped from Hale altogether, re-entering the world of the living.
Aoife was mentally traumatized and corrupted from her time in Tartarus, which led her to killing a nanny that was looking after Isabeau. The violent act prompted Luann to kidnap Isabeau and escape to the Midwest of the United States and hide the child.
Luann left the child with a couple that adopted her and renamed her Beau Dennis. They raised her under a conservative and repressive lifestyle, believing her to be a demonic child.
Later, when Beau had intercourse for the first time with her high school boyfriend, she discovered her powers as a succubus when she stole the life of her boyfriend. She immediately ran away and went into hiding, dropping her last name and just calling herself Beau.
Bo struggled to understand and control her powers as she left a trail of bodies as she traveled east through North America.
Meanwhile, Tamsin died yet again and was reincarnated into a child once more. She attended the Valkyrie school in the living world, where the Valkyries would relearn all the skills they would need to deliver souls of fallen warriors. She only had a hazy memory of her past lives.
Tamsin's teacher, Acacia, tried to teach the Valkyries to realize their potential to instill doubt. For this, Freya fired her. Tamsin sought her out anyway, and Acacia personally mentored Tamsin to realize her potential. For this, Tamsin was expelled.
When Tamsin grew into an adult not long afterwards, she became a mercenary and worked alongside Acacia, taking odd jobs. She took a job from Hades without asking any questions. He didn't reveal his identity to her, but he purposefully misled her into believing he was the Wanderer. Hades asked Tamsin to find a virtuous succubus, even if it took decades, and Tamsin agreed.
In the 1990s, the Leichnagfalad rebranded as a mercenary and weapons-dealing corporation called Majesty, but it was still ruled by the King of Ilek.
By this time, the Light and the Dark were both composed of many more clans, elders, and leaders, but their principles remained. The Light named their leaders after sacred trees, whereas the Dark named their leaders after past warriors.
The leader of the Light in the Eastern Canadian Fae colony was known as the Ash. Evany became the leader of the Dark in the same colony, acquiring the title of the Morrigan.
A human named Karen Beatty graduated from Yale University and enlisted in the United States Army to fight a war in Afghanistan.
Karen, however, kept in touch with her brother, and they became disillusioned with the industrialized nations of the world. They became eco-terrorists and planned to destroy a huge oil pipeline that was ravaging the environment.
In 1998, when the day of the bombing arrived, Karen placed the bomb. However, when 11 people were unexpectedly in the area, Karen's brother detonated the bomb anyway, prioritizing their message over the individual lives.
Karen felt betrayed, but she became a fugitive, as the United States identified her as a terrorist that killed 11 people. She escaped capture and forged a new identity as Dr. Lauren Lewis, refocusing her life on medical practice.
Lauren threw herself into humanitarian work, and she began dating a photographer named Nadia.
In 2005, a regional epidemic broke out in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and so Lauren rushed there to save the ill, bringing along Nadia to photograph their suffering and bring awareness to the people in Africa.
However, they were both unaware that the epidemic only affected Fae and that none of their patients were human. Nevertheless, Lauren adapted to the situation and treated the patients excellently.
The Light asked for the Ash for assistance in the Congo, but when he arrived, he saw Lauren was already taking care of the situation. He wanted to keep Lauren to be of use to the Light, and he utilized Nadia in his plans.
The Ash coordinated with the Dark Fae named Tishambe?
Yep.
Who was a shaman possessing the ability to inflict curses upon others. Tishambe put a curse on Nadia, putting her into an unshakable coma.
The Ash revealed the nature of the Fae to Lauren, but he told her that Nadia was the only human to fall victim to the epidemic. He offered life support and access to Fae knowledge for Nadia back in his Fae colony if Lauren would agree to serve the Ash. Lauren agreed and became a slave of the Light.
In 2010, Bo continued to be on the run, eventually arriving in the Eastern Canadian Fae colony. The Fae tracked her body count and apprehended her. They arranged a ceremony so she could decide which side she was on, light or dark. When they realized she didn't even know she was Fae, which was very abnormal, she refused to pick a side and chose to be unaligned, making her very infamous in the Fae world.
Bo met a human named Mackenzie Malakoff, also known as Kinsey, who was a runaway from her abusive home. Bo and Kinsey became best friends and got an apartment to live together. Bo didn't hide the Fae world from her, but Fae seemed like they were going to get rid of Kinsey unless Bo claimed her. So Bo did, technically making Kinsey her slave.
Even though Bo was unaligned, she tended to hang around the light more than the dark. Bo met the Ash and Lauren did a medical checkup on her.
Bo was also directed to meet Dyson, who was now a homicide detective with the police as his day job, and his partner was a siren from a rich Fae clan named Baronet William Haley Francis Santiago, although he preferred Hale.
Bo began sleeping with Dyson to satiate her lust to prevent her from accidentally killing humans.
Bo became a freelance detective, utilizing her unaligned status to take cases from both light and dark, as well as Fae that neither side would take seriously.
Bo would often meet other Fae at the Dalriata where she met Trick, who often gave her advice. Trick figured out that she was actually his granddaughter, and so he went out of his way to assist her.
In the course of her investigations, Bo met the Morrigan as well as Vex.
On Lash O'Shane, which was a Fae holiday celebrating the truce between the light and dark, Kenzie made a light Fae noble named Sean Kavanagh, who was marked for death. They were about to start a relationship when he died.
Aoife arrived in the Fae colony and made contact with Bo, but by this time her mentality had degraded to the point that she blamed Bo for all of her misfortune and wanted to kill her.
Aoife bombed a meeting with Light Elders and the Ash, killing some and injuring many. Then she set out to kill Bo, but Trick intervened and used his blood to write that Aoife would be overcome with emotion when trying to kill Bo.
I thought he was never going to do it again.
Well, Aoife didn't initially try to kill Bo. She tried to recruit her, but when that didn't work...
She was trying to control her.
Yeah.
Also, Dyson also made a deal with a Norn, who possessed the power to trade a power for someone else's deepest desire. Dyson traded his love for Bo to give Bo extra power to defeat Aoife. Aoife was severely injured, but she escaped.
However, when Trick used his blood, the Fae Eaters could smell where the Blood King was hiding, and so the few remaining Fae Eaters came out of hiding as well. The last Garuda in particular wanted to use him to restart Carnage.
In 2011, the Ash was retired, and a ceremony to select the new Ash was underway. Lachlan was a Fae Eater known as a Naga, possessing the power to use toxins that could even kill Fae, as well as possessing multiple heads he could use to split his body.
Lachlan tried to stop the Garuda, but the Garuda killed 4 of his 5 heads, so Lachlan infiltrated the light until he managed to be elected as the new Ash.
Bo and Dyson took on a case that resulted in rescuing Kiara. The king of Ilek died, and she was recently widowed. Since Dyson was unable to love Bo anymore, he began a relationship with Kiara.
The Ash told Bo about Lauren's girlfriend, and he told her how to free Nadia from the curse on the condition she free her secretly. Bo did so, and when Nadia reawoke, Lauren pledged to remain a slave to the new Ash.
The Ash named Bo as his champion and tasked her to defeat the Garuda. So Bo advised Kinsey to get out of town. Kinsey dated a human named Nate and left town with him for a bit.
Bo began dating a dark fae Loki named Ryan, who possessed powers of luck.
Ryan and the Morrigan attempted to feed off of Nate, prompting Kinsey to bargain for his life and be in their debt.
When the Light stopped feeding their daughters to the Cherfae attacked them, but Bo killed it.
Bo broke up with Ryan and Kinsey broke up with Nate so she would stop putting his life in danger around the dangerous fae.
The Garuda killed the Ash, but Lauren preserved his venom to be used against him.
The Garuda possessed Nadia and used her to try to kill Bo and her compatriots. Bo killed Nadia, and Lauren fell into despair. Bo rashly slept with Lauren to ease her pain.
Bo, Dyson, Kiara, Lauren, Hale, and Kenzie teamed up to fight the Garuda, but they lost badly. The Garuda killed Kiara.
Bo discovered that Trick was her grandfather, and Trick explained some of her origins to her.
Kenzie stole Dyson's love back from the Norm with the chainsaw.
That's when she made the cheeseburger quote.
Mm-hmm.
Bo realized she needed the Dark's help to defeat the Garuda, and so she enlisted Vex onto their team.
To prevent the Garuda from turning the team on each other once more, Bo used her blood succubus powers to enslave the entire team into a sort of hive mind. The Garuda possessed Trick, but Bo injected him with the venom anyway to kill him. Bo used a vial of life that Trick had given her to bring Trick back after the Garuda had died within him.
In 2012, Bo's alter ego occasionally began taking her over and feeding off of humans without her knowledge. Meanwhile, Bo began dating Lauren, but they agreed Bo could feed on other fae, just not Dyson.
The Light and Dark agreed to work together more often after the Garuda ordeal. Hale began politicking to be the new Ash, and so Dyson's new partner was the Dark Fae Tamsin.
Kinsey was kidnapped by a kitsune that replaced her in her life, but Bo and Tamsin rescued her.
Bo experienced the Dawning, a maturation ritual that usually only occurred on a Fae's 200th birthday, but Bo accidentally began it early. She survived it and got better control over her power.
Bo and Lauren broke up. Lauren was offered a job by a human named Dr. Isaac Taft as a scientist and escaped from her enslavement. However, he desired her because he was creating an anti-Fae corporation.
Taft got Lauren to develop an anti-Fae toxin without telling her its purpose. He used this to kill several high-ranking Fae.
Hale tried to unite the Light and Dark, but the Morrigan got Hale impeached as Ash when she revealed the toxin was made by a human slave of the Light. After his impeachment, the Light began a new policy to no longer allow the enslaving of humans. They began a campaign against humanity to kill them instead, ironically making them more like the Dark and increasing their solidarity.
Taft collected many Fae and experimented upon them to try to transfer their power to himself. He made Lauren transplant Dyson's power into his bone marrow, but Lauren secretly gave him the powers of a Cabot instead, giving him just the power to scurry around. What kind of power?
Wait, it's like a bunny.
Oh.
A magic bunny. Bo, Dyson, and Tamsin managed to take Taft's corporation down, and Taft died.
Bruce was one of the Dark's very few human slaves, and he assisted Kenzie in escaping the Light.
Massimo was the Morrigan's adult human son, the offspring of an affair. He learned Fae enchantments and became a druid, but he was ultimately a slave to the Dark because he was human. Vex took care of him as a surrogate father since the Morrigan wanted nothing to do with him. Kenzie asked him if he could make her Fae so she could survive.
Massimo gave Kenzie enchanted cream that would fake powers for her, but the price was exorbitant and put her in massive debt.
Bo left the world for Purgatory, now known as the Death Train, where she discovered the Wanderer. Oh, by the way, I just want to say, I'm the type of guy that likes to wander around. I'm the type of guy that goes from town to town. I'm the Wanderer.
They ingeniously use that song in the show.
It's weird because it's like a 1950s song, but they use it in such a way that's kind of scary, especially because the song does sound kind of
creepy.
Yeah.
And they used it several times in really good ways.
Fall off. Okay.
In 2013, when Bo left to visit the Wanderer, like him, all memory of her was erased from the living world, just like had been done with the Wanderer.
Without Bo, Dyson was in a relationship with Kenzie, who was still pretending to be Fae.
Vex was more ruthless without Bo and blackmailed Evany into losing her position as the Morrigan, and Vex became the new Morrigan. He then kidnapped her and hid her behind her own funeral painting in his cell.
And you know, when you say blackmail, like he used his body control powers to make her dance around in her underwear in front of the Dark.
Yes. Well, he recorded it.
Well, same thing. Mm-hmm. They all got their memories back when they used an enchanted compass they had acquired from Engelram, the Amphisbaena, who possessed the ability to grant wishes.
They returned to their old selves. Kenzie started dating Hale instead of Dyson. Evany returned as the Morrigan when Vex's deception was uncovered.
Tamsin reincarnated for the last time, for she was on her last life once more. Kenzie raised her this time.
Bo met Raynor on the death train and spent months with him to help him get his memories back, and she fell ridiculously in love for him for no real reason. She was determined to put him back in history, thinking what happened to him was unjust.
They knew the moment they went back to the living, they would forget what happened in the death train, because that's just how that realm worked. To send a message to her future self, Bo aligned with the Dark, and then she helped him escape into the living world.
Lauren was a fugitive once more, trying not to be found by any Fae, but she was captured anyway.
Bo helped Kenzie deal with Massimo, who was extorting Kenzie for the fake Fae powers. Massimo took some of Tamsin's enchanted Valkyrie hair and fell into some lava, but the hair protected him.
The Unamens approached Bo and told her to obey the rules of the Dark, much to her surprise. To keep the peace, the Unamens arranged for Trick to become the next Ash, unaware of his true identity.
Lauren found she was captured by the Dark, not the Light. To prevent her killing or enslavement by the Light, she joined the Dark as a slave when the Morrigan promised she could live her life without inhibitions that the Light imposed, as long as she remained useful to the Dark.
When the Unamens encountered Dyson, they captured him to punish him for using the Hell Score on a Fae centuries ago, but Bo freed him.
Dyson taught Kenzie how to be a shadow thief, so that she wouldn't simply be a weak human anymore.
Bo regained some memories of the Wanderer, and she introduced him as Raynor and her beloved to her friends.
Raynor convinced Bo that they should murder the Unamens, and together they did so. In so doing, their souls relocated to the last remaining origin seed that Trick had never used.
Massimo wanted vengeance upon Kenzie for the suffering he felt in the lava, so he went to her apartment and murdered her boyfriend Hale. Bo was too busy with Raynor to bother saving him.
Do you want to go on a rant now, or...?
Nah, we can save that for the end.
Okay. When Kenzie sought vengeance on Massimo, Vex pitied him and helped him escape.
Hades made his move to try to escape from Tartaros, and he opened a portal that sent souls of the dead to invade the living world.
It's actually Tartarus.
Tartarus.
I think you're thinking of Fairy Tale. Mm-hmm. Massimo stole and ate the origin seed, and he used his new power to kill Raynor. Lauren destroyed the Valkyrie hair concoction Massimo had, removing his invulnerability. Bo then killed him.
To stop the invasion, Kenzie realized she could sacrifice herself to close the portal, and she did so. Tamsin took her soul to Valhalla.
Lauren seduced the Morrigan and acquired her DNA. She used it to create a specific serum to turn the Morrigan into a human. She laced her genitals with the serum and had intercourse with the Morrigan and turned her human. The Morrigan was horrified at losing her power, but now Lauren didn't have to worry about the Morrigan trying to kill her.
2014, just when Kenzie was enjoying life in Valhalla and going to reunite with Hale, who was being transferred there to marry her, Bo invaded Valhalla to rescue Kenzie. She succeeded, but Kenzie would never see Hale again.
While Bo was there, she visited Tartarus and met Persephone. After sleeping with her stepmother, Bo was told by Persephone that her father Hades lived there.
Bo went back to the living and brought an enchanted candle Persephone gave her. Persephone begged her to light it as it would free her and her family. Bo did so.
Kenzie left Bo and ran away after this.
Persephone was freed from Tartarus, but all the ancients were freed from myth as well. They possessed some humans. Zeus possessed a woman, and so she renamed herself Z. Hera possessed a man, and so he renamed herself Horatio. Iris and Nyx, still fused together, possessed a young woman.
Z, Horatio, and Iris began a plan to reinforce their influence in the world by feeding on the adoration of humans once more.
When Iris was unable to contain Nyx, Nyx began to spread a plague of darkness that threatened to destroy the world.
Hades mailed an enchanted box to Bo, which was capable of sealing a soul. She used it to seal Iris and Nyx away, saving the world, but in doing so, she had released Hades' soul, and he was able to now leave Tartarus.
Bo met Hephaestus, who forged an enchanted horseshoe for her.
Z, Horatio, and Hephaestus were so terrified that Hades wanted revenge that they willingly retreated back into myth.
Bo, Dyson, Tamsin, and Lauren occasionally slept together casually.
That's just kind of the status of their relationship. Bo just kind of is with all of them. Dyson also discovered he had a son named Mark, who was a panther shifter.
They also met Hades and attempted to imprison him.
Very badly. They did not work at all. He just walked out. Tamsin wanted to be with Bo, but Bo rejected the exclusivity. Hades disguised himself as Bo and raped Tamsin, impregnating her as a plan B if Bo refused.
Hades tried to convince Bo to go along with his plans, but she refused. In response, he murdered Trick and Aoife. He then captured Tamsin and accelerated her pregnancy.
Bo confronted Hades and agreed to go along with his plans, even faking the deaths of her friends.
Hades activated the Priapus, which was the alter ego buried within Bo. The Priapus sucked the life out of everyone in the world except for Hades, and then Hades filled the corpses with dead souls that he controlled.
Bo's friends were protected from the Priapus by the horseshoe forged by Hephaestus.
It was just the town that she sucked the souls of first.
The town was first, but the plan was for the whole world.
Yeah. When the Priapus and Hades found Bo's friends still alive, the Priapus tried to kill them. However, they managed to get through to Bo, who managed to regain control over her body. She then sucked the life out of Hades until he ceased to exist.
Vex and Mark entered into a relationship.
Tamsin gave birth to a young Valkyrie baby with Dark Lord eccentricities. Valkyries died in childbirth, so Tamsin died.
Even though Tamsin's dying wish was for Bo to take care of the child, Dagny, Bo instead gave her to Kenzie to raise, and Kenzie taught her the ways of Fae and humans.
Sometime in the 2020s, Kenzie reintroduced Dagny once she was a teenager to Kenzie's friends. She took her to the Dalriada and introduced Dagny to Bo, Dyson, Lauren, Vex, and Mark, and they vowed to make sure she wouldn't ever have to wonder about her identity.
And that's it.
Yep.
All right, we managed to do it with time to spare, too.
And now for the ranting, because this show was actually not really good at all with the representation of Bo.
Yes, I mean, the show was good. I liked watching the show, but it was not great, and I thought it was going to be great, so it was kind of a disappointment as well, because there were many things, specifically with representation, that it got so wrong.
Yeah, Bo was just like... she was every bad stereotype of a bisexual woman.
Like what?
Like, she was obviously way over-sexualized. I mean, she's a succubus, so that's understandable, but, like, she was automatically said to be down for threesomes and that kind of thing.
I don't think that's bad because there were several other bi characters as well.
I know, but still. Like, come on. And something else about the women in the show, all of them wear heels. like constantly.
Especially Bo. And like literally the only character it would make sense to be wearing heels is Kenzie because she has such an acute fashion sense.
Yeah, Kenzie is really into fashion, so.
Although her fashion sense is very weird.
It's a bit gothic.
Yeah.
It's really cool, though.
I just don't know what the term is because I'm not really into fashion. But it's really cool and different.
I love Kenzie.
Yeah,
Kenzie's my favorite character.
She's like the best character in the show.
The only reason I got upset when Hale died was because of the way it affected Kenzie. And also, I was pissed that he died at all because they did it in such a horrible way.
He was literally the only main character of African descent. And that's not counting the first Ash, who also died.
Yeah, and they just killed him off without much of an explanation.
Yeah, it was completely ridiculous. And they literally went to Valhalla to get Kenzie's soul back, and Bo didn't even once stop to think, like, hey, what about Hale?
Yeah, exactly. And, like, they had no excuse for why she didn't try to save him at all.
Yeah, and there were so many things that were ridiculous. Like, one, during the whole scene, like, Kenzie was in her underwear, right? Which was, like, literally the only time she was ever portrayed that scantily clad. So it was almost like they were purposely trying to make her look vulnerable, even though she literally had swords throughout the area.
Yeah, like, she knows how to fight.
Yeah, except that one time, apparently.
Yeah.
Not to mention, she literally didn't pick up a phone to call 911.
Or anything like that. And then when Bo finally got there...
Oh, and the only reason Bo wasn't there is because, like, oh, I'm with Rainer now. This guy who literally has no personality.
And who she literally only met for, what was it, a couple months?
Yes.
And she chose him over Kenzie, like, every time.
Yeah, and that's why Hale died.
It was so
She was so full of herself.
Yeah, because if she was hanging out with Kenzie at the time, then she would have been able to take care of Massimo.
Well, it would have been 2 versus 1 at least.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, she wasn't there, and for some reason, Kenzie was written to not fight, so it was 0 versus 1.
Yeah, and, like, that was the only time in that series that there was a permanent death. There were other times when characters seemed to die and they were brought back to life, but that was the first time in the show that they actually permanently killed off a character.
Yep. And it just seemed really biased, like, essentially, because, you know, he's the only one of African descent. All the other main characters are Caucasian.
Yeah.
I mean, Kenzie does have, like, a little bit of diversity to her with her being Russian, but that's still Caucasian.
It was ridiculous.
So, yeah, and it was very noticeable. And also, you know, Hale did try to fight back. I'll give him that, but still, that entire death scene was very unsatisfying.
Oh, I came up with the perfect way to describe my problem with Bo's representation.
Oh, okay, what?
It seemed like a male gaze caricature of what a bi woman would be like.
Yeah, because, you know, we mentioned her in the Barely Gay Characters episode. And we talked about how she seemed like she was written by men. We actually looked it up. Turns out that's not the case. But it doesn't change the story that's there. You know, like the heels, for example. There is no point to them.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate heels.
I know. But she's entirely written as a male fantasy of a bisexual woman.
You want to know another big grievance?
What?
When she was dating Ryan, who was the Loki. And he was such a jerk. I hated his guts. Yeah. And the whole plot was like, I don't know why I'm with him. I just keep coming back to him, but he's so bad for me. Then leave him.
Yeah.
He literally was responsible for almost murdering your best friend's boyfriend. Kenzie, the guy she was dating?
Yeah, a couple of bad things had to happen before she broke up with him.
Yeah, even then she didn't break up with him.
No.
That wasn't the line.
No, and it was so ridiculous how she would be willing to stay with him through all that crap.
But the most egregious thing to me with him was how one day he comes to her and he brought along another woman who's, you know, stereotypically attractive, right? And he says, I brought you a present. And she goes, thanks, and starts having a, you know, 3-way intercourse.
Yeah.
Like, no. Ryan, this is as much a present for you as it is for her.
Yeah,
Do not act like that was a selfless thing.
Yeah.
I hate, we're yelling way too much. Sorry.
But yeah, it was ridiculous.
Oh, and then Tamsin being raped.
Oh, that's another thing. When Tamsin got raped and impregnated, like, she never even talked to Lauren, a doctor, about the possibility of abortion.
Yeah, and you know what? Regardless of how you're going to feel about that, literally any woman who is forcibly raped and impregnated is at least going to consider it.
Yeah, but they just completely ignored it like it was automatically not even an option and just like didn't even have an explanation for that. Like if they had one scene where she went to Lauren and asked her about it and was curious and Lauren told her that there was nothing she could do about it, then I would understand, okay, it's Faye, like it's hard or whatever, or Lauren's explanation would be. But she literally didn't even consider it.
Yeah, and it would have been fine if she had made the choice. So she's like, no, I want to have a baby. But she never even got to make that choice because the whole pregnancy was accelerated. She literally was giving birth before she was even able to make a choice on even wanting to keep the child.
Well, she didn't even consider it. Yeah. Like, they wrote it as she's not going to even consider not keeping it,
and then conveniently turns out, by the way, Valkyries die after they give childbirth. So she, not only is she having a child, never even considered, hey, maybe I don't want to die. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she's going to die if she does it. And it's 100% chance, unlike real childbirth where it's only like a X% chance. Yeah,
not only that, but Bo could have saved her in the end. Like, they literally mentioned that Bo could have saved her life.
Oh, yeah.
And she chooses to die anyway.
Yeah, Bo had excess life power that when she was bringing everyone back after the whole Hades incident. Mm-hmm. And so she could have given some of that to Tamsin to try to bring her back. Even if it didn't succeed, there was a chance. Mm-hmm. And Tamsin just goes, no, I'm good. I've lived my... No, you haven't. You have a child. You insisted only after pregnancy was almost to term and given birth that okay, you want the child, even though she never even considered abortion. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. But okay, you want the child that badly, whatever. Okay, apparently, even though you've never questioned it, but you're having a child. At least be a mother for her. Do not just accept death. What kind of mother are you?
She chose to leave her child without her as a mother. She chose to die because she could have lived if she would have let Bo revive her.
It was suicide. And there can be responsible ways to portray suicide in media because it's an unfortunate thing that does happen a lot, right?
Yeah, but they just...
But she didn't even do that. She didn't even be contemplate the darkness of suicide and what she'd be leaving behind. She's just nah, I'm good, bye.
Yeah, and it happened so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could have argued that she's lived dozens of lives. Maybe she's just tired or something, right?
Yeah, but they didn't even discuss any of that. Yeah. And not only did she leave the baby, her last wish was for Bo to raise the baby, and Bo just hands the baby off to Kenzie to be raised with humans.
Yeah, because Bo agrees. Bo's okay, I will. And then later on, after she's dead, she's I'm not fit to be a mother. Here you go, Kenzie.
Yeah, exactly. And Kenzie has to take her to be raised by humans.
Bo, if you weren't prepared to do that, you should have brought her to life, or at least told her. I don't know. Okay,
you should have told her that I'm not going to raise this baby. This baby's going to be raised by someone else.
Well, I'm trying to keep everyone's consent in mind. So here's what I would have done. I would have, as Bo, been no, we got to do this. And then Tamsin's just dead. And Bo's oh, no. Here, just breathe life into her. Look, I know you might be but you're violating her consent for suicide, which is already kind of a touchy subject. But let's just do it temporarily. Just bring her back. I'm okay, look, if you still want to die, we'll kill you. But first, I need to discuss with you the arrangements for taking care of your child. Yeah. Do you want me to do it? Do you want Kenzie? I'm really not fit to do it. So I understand your last wish was given to me. I'm not qualified.
Yeah, exactly. They should have had a discussion.
Communication, that's how any relationship works. And it's no wonder that none of Bo's relationships work.
Yeah, because she just does not communicate well.
They had a whole thing with Lauren and Dyson about how I can't be with both of you, and Lauren is not enough for me to feed off of and survive, and Dyson is toxic masculinity incarnate, although they never acknowledge that, and I just keep using this tone no matter what I'm saying because I'm frustrated. And sorry. But it was no wonder that the relationship wouldn't work because they never really ever talked about anything.
Yeah, exactly.
They rarely, one time, Bo and Lauren had a talk. And the rule was no Dyson, and that rule did not hold for very long.
Yeah, it just turned out to be so ridiculous.
By the end of it, Lauren ends up hypothesizing about a way that their relationship can work, which was like completely brain dead obvious to me from like the third episode, which was, oh, Lauren's lifespan is finite. Dyson's is not. Right? Or at least it's longer, centuries longer, right? So Bo could date Lauren for just 100 years, and then she could date Dyson. If it was really that big a deal and she couldn't just date them all simultaneously.
Yeah.
And even then, to date them all simultaneously, you would need ground rules. You can't just keep going back and forth. Oh, and then how she rejected Tamsin?
Oh, yeah, that was terrible.
So heartbreaking. And it almost felt like it was written in a way like Tamsin's half of the conversation, Tamsin's feelings. She was a phenomenal actor, or that dialogue was written because I really felt for her, right?
Yeah.
But Bo was being completely ridiculous, and that did not mesh with her character. Because basically, even though Bo sleeps around and sleeps with everybody, she refused to actually be in a relationship with Tamsin.
Which is ridiculous because Tamsin talked to her and told her, she's like, I would be okay.
Yeah, like Tamsin's one of the few ones that actually tried to openly discuss feelings and make a commitment.
Yeah, she told Bo, she's like, okay, I know I need to stop being jealous and I need to understand that you're a succubus and you can't just, I'm not enough alone.
Right.
And she told her that, and Bo just ends up rejecting her. And
Bo,
the whole build up to that was Tamsin saying things indicating that their relationship was more than just
Tamsin was
what Bo wanted. And Bo never corrected her before Tamsin
she let her be misled.
Yeah, she let Tamsin believe that they were
in... She kind of teased her in a way.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is, like, Tamsin was willing to be like, okay, I understand. I will not be your only girl or woman. Sorry. I will not be your only woman, but I can still be one of them, right? And Bo goes, no, I'm going to be with everyone else but you.
Yeah.
And Tamsin called her out on that. She's like, you're with Lauren, Dyson? Was there someone else? Probably at some point, but those were the big...
I think she said that she even kissed Kenzie at one point.
She did one time.
Yeah, but like, yeah.
But she, not Tamsin, and that was just insulting.
Yeah, she was really upset. Oh, she mentioned, I think...
Yeah, Rainer, that entire relationship was a farce.
Oh my god, yeah. So...
There was nothing that, like, attracted... Like, he was literally a blank slate who didn't remember anything about who he was, and somehow they tried to write it as, like, oh, he was just irresistible and I fell for him. Like,
because she wanted to save him. That was her reason. Like, oh, I want to save this guy because he seemed to be going through such injustice and I can't stand for that. And it's
that
like,
seems to be
that doesn't require a relationship.
That's like a real, like, bad boy complex or something.
Yeah, it was so dumb. And she chose him over her friends several times.
And how is it that in this entire show they never had an incubus? I thought
that's true.
I thought, like, Rainer has to be an incubus. That's the only explanation for how she's falling for him. No. You know what he was? He was an intelligent tactician that was able to foresee everyone's moves until he was murdered.
Yeah.
Also, let's just kill the Unamans. Let's literally murder the government. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and then after that, Trick literally told her, okay, Rainer's gonna try to get you to kill the Unamans because it's to his advantage. Don't do it. And she was just kind of like, I already did.
Yeah, so that was ridiculous.
Yeah, and she trusted him over her friends, which was ridiculous.
Okay, we've complained a lot. Have you had everything you want to say so we can quickly do something else?
Yeah, sure.
All right, why don't we just talk about characters that we liked?
Kenzie was my absolute favorite.
Yeah, she was really cool, and her backstory is something I haven't seen before. I haven't really seen like a type of like a current young progressive person is like literally a runaway trying to fight to survive from a Russian conservative family.
Yeah, not only that, her family was abusive towards her, so she was running away because she couldn't take the abuse anymore.
I thought it was she was a very cool character.
Yeah, and at one point, her mother tries to come back to her when Hale tries to propose to her, and her mother hasn't changed at all, and ends up blaming Kenzie in the end for her abuse. And so Kenzie just breaks ties with her mother completely and says that she hasn't changed at all, you know?
Yeah, Hale was also a cool character. Mm-hmm. I really liked him. He always wanted good things. He wanted to be in power so he could do things that were right.
Yeah.
That was short-lived.
Yeah.
I hated Dyson. Sorry, what?
Well, there were a couple things Hale did was wrong, but we don't have to discuss that.
What did he do that was wrong?
Remember when they were reliving the same night and he was tricking Kenzie?
Right, but she called him out on that behavior and they moved past that.
Not only that, but without Kenzie's consent, he called her family without knowing their relationship.
That was uncool, but again, they got past that, didn't they?
Yeah,
like,
I guess
I feel
they
like
did.
we didn't get to hear all of it, but they obviously talked through those problems.
Okay.
I mean, but you're right. Those were problematic things. I just felt that Hale had more good qualities than bad. Whereas Bo was the hero, I guess, but she was kind of a jerk.
She was like an anti-hero.
It's just she was so cruel to the people that cared about her.
And yes, I agree with you. I hated Dyson. And his son was a bit better because they had a decent subplot going on with him and Vex.
I did not like him at first, but because he just seemed kind of like the bravado, like, oh, hey, look at me, guy. But by the end, yeah, he and Vex got into a relationship. And the entire time, the entire show, they literally never showed a relationship between two men. They never showed an intercourse scene between two men.
Not a single time. Not even a kiss between two men.
Yeah, they showed women together all the time, or a woman and man.
Yes,
especially with Bo, right? Yeah, and like we talked about this before, two women having intercourse, yet all of their hands are visible. So what's going on down there?
Yeah. And the most frustrating thing about Mark and Vex's relationship in the end is that, yeah, they got together, you could see that, but then in the epilogue, they could have had a kiss or something or anything, and they just didn't do that.
Actually, no, they did kiss, but
didn't.
No, right when they kissed, the camera panned away.
Oh, was he leaning in for a kiss at the end there?
Yes.
That was so ridiculous.
Which is, like you literally show intercourse scenes and you're not going to show a two males kissing. Is there some law in Canada about that? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they shoot two women together all the time, but no, not two men.
Anyway, we got to kind of wrap it up here.
Yeah.
This was a good show. Not great. It was problematic, but I at least appreciate that they gave it a shot, and that's more than what many other shows do.
I agree.
So we wanted to voice our criticisms, but we had all that time we were talking about the story shows how invested we were in the plot.
Yeah.
And so I recommend it as long as you can put that offensive stuff aside, unless... crap. Actually, maybe that's a deal breaker for some people. If it is, I can't blame you.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about this one.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, that's Lost Girl. We are Game Theorem. I'm Kyle.
I'm Kira.
And we have social media. Contact us at gametheorems@gmail.com if you have feedback, suggestions, or corrections. We have social media throughout the Fae world.
Very funny.
And our Kickstarter from Nuka-Cola.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.